Matthew Berry here from the Fantasy Show on ESPN Plus. Week 1 now in the books. So let's look at the viable options out there in the waiver wire as we get set for week number 2. Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette left the game due to a hamstring injury, which opened the door for TJ Yeldon. He outsnapped Corey Grant 27-4 in the second half. Yeldon led the Jags in scrimmage yards and added a receiving score, and he should be heavily involved if Fournette were to miss any more time. Considering the fact that Yeldon's rostered in just 8% of leagues, that number needs to go up. Fournette rostered in 100% of leagues, which means Yeldon needs to be rostered in 100% of leagues. Broncos running back Philip Lindsay led the Denver backfield with 17 touches, had the same number of carries and rushing yards as Royce Freeman. Look, I'm not saying he's going to supplant Freeman as the primary ball carrier, but Lindsay played more snaps than Devontae Booker and should continue to have a role in the passing game. And I know there are some concerns about his lack of size, but Lindsay is a player who averaged 310 touches per season over his last 2 years at Colorado. He's rostered in just 1.9% of leagues and will have a role moving forward. Moving to my wideouts, Ravens wide receiver John Brown is someone you should be looking for. As we saw in week 1, the Ravens passing game much improved this season. And here's a crazy stat. For his career, Brown averages 3.07 fantasy points per reception. That's more than Antonio Brown averaged last season. If Brown can stay healthy, John that is, he's going to have a big year. Brown rostered in just 21.6% of leagues. Colts wide receiver Ryan Grant, another wide receiver to add on the waiver wire. Colts defense can't stop anybody. This is a team that is going to have to throw, and frankly throw often. Grant set a career high with 8 catches in week 1 and was targeted on a higher percentage of his routes than both T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle. Grant rostered in just 9.7% of leagues. Moving on to tight ends, I tried to tell you about George Kittle this preseason, but apparently nobody listened. Kittle led the 49ers in targets, receptions, and yards against the Vikings, and honestly would have had an even bigger game had he not dropped a long touchdown pass. Remember, final 3 weeks of last season, George Kittle was the number 5 tight end in fantasy, and on Sunday, he played 80% of the snaps and ran the second most routes on the 49ers. Kittle somehow still only rostered in 37.2% of ESPN leagues.